Chapter 167. Great Matriarch, I'm willing to personally turn this traitor into a drow spider and let her suffer until she dies. Great Matriarch, I want to turn her into a resentful soul goblin. Her wails will certainly be very pleasant to hear. Xianxia's confidants scrambled to curry favor with Joanna, shamelessly switching sides. The losers of the Dark Elf struggle were very miserable. Therefore they switched sides very quickly. Is this us Dark Elves? It was too ugly. We were noble, holy, and loyal High Elves. Joanna looked at Xianxia's confidants scrambling to curry favor with her. Not only was she not happy, but her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of deep sorrow. Dark Elves were High Elves who were seduced by Spider Queen Lolth. Their ancestors were noble, holy, loyal, and powerful High Elves. If the High Elves encountered such a coup, Xianxia's faction would definitely loyally protect their master until they all died in battle. But now, those former Xianxia's confidants were racking their brains, wanting to use all kinds of evil means to torture their former master. Many of these means made Joanna's heart slightly cold, making her unable to feel happy. Xianxia's complexion was pale, but she tried her best to remain calm. Joanna, you win. I only ask you one thing, kill me yourself and give me a quick death. In exchange, I'll tell you the location of my private property and some precious ancient books. One of Xianxia's former confidants spat on Xianxia's face and viciously cursed, "Pa, you slut, you're only fit to mate with those lowly dragons and give birth to more powerful weapons of war for us Dark Elves." One of Xianxia's former confidants flattered Joanna, "Great Matriarch, the Caveman, the Evil Eye Tyrant, the Great Fiend Barek, and the Black Dragon King. These 4 experts are very interested in this slut. It would be better to take her and have the 4 experts mate with her in exchange for their support." Joanna listened to the shameless words of Xianxia's former confidants. Her complexion became more and more gloomy, and there was no trace of a smile in her eyes. Suddenly, a Dark Elf said with a panicked expression, "Not good. Not good. Steel City's Mechanical Legion is less than 20 kilometers away from our city." "What? How is that possible? How did they get here so quickly?" "Impossible? How could they get here so quickly? How is that possible? Don't tell me they're rushing towards us without eating, drinking, or resting. What about logistics? What about logistics?" The eyes of the Dark Elves revealed a trace of shock as they discussed spiritedly, their eyes flickering with disbelief. Joanna did not panic. She ordered coldly, "Seal her up." A Dark Elf took out a pair of magic restraining shackles and quickly handcuffed Xianxia. Anti-magic shackles were mystical secret treasures. Once shackled by anti-magic shackles, then even a great warlock rank expert's power would be sealed, unable to break free independently. Naturally, these anti-magic shackles were very precious. There were only 10 of them in the entire Dark Elven race, and they were only used on the most dangerous and powerful criminals. The entire city of Dark Elves was in chaos. Countless Dark Elven warriors quickly arrived at their posts, ready for battle. The city of Dark Elves was Dark Elven clan's most formidable stronghold in the underworld, as well as their most solid fortress. Within the city of Dark Elves, the number of Dark Elves reached as high as 1,300,000, and the number of adult Dark Elves reached about 1 million. Every adult Dark Elf was a formidable warrior, especially in a place shrouded in darkness like the underworld, where their strength would be greatly boosted. Moreover, the city of Dark Elves had stockpiled a large number of weapons, as if it was an impregnable stronghold. Anyone who wanted to capture the city of Dark Elves would have to pay a painful price. Moreover, the city of Dark Elves had a large number of weapons hoarded, as if it was an impregnable stronghold. Anyone who wanted to capture the city of Dark Elves would have to pay a painful price. So this is the city of Dark Elves. It looks like it will be somewhat troublesome to capture it. Yang Feng looked at the city of Dark Elves amidst the huge mechanical legion, and his eyes flashed with a touch of graveness. The city of Dark Elves' city wall was up to 150 m tall, with all kinds of incomparably thick ancient vines crawling around the city wall. Moreover, above the city wall, there were all kinds of strange, extraordinary plants, giving people a feeling that they shouldn't be trifled with. In the very center of the city of Dark Elves, There was a huge temple. The huge temple exuded incomparably sacred fluctuations, shrouding the entire city of Dark Elves. Yang Feng had once read records pertaining to the city of Dark Elves. Ever since the collapse of the 8th Warlock Dynasty, Dawn Dynasty, the Dark Elves had built the city of Dark Elves under the guidance of the goddess Lolth. Tyrandat subcontinent's human warlocks had once launched an expedition against the underworld, but it had ended in failure. More than 500,000 human troops had perished beneath the city of Dark Elves, their corpses piling up like mountains. The biggest reason for the human warlocks' defeat was the temple of the goddess Lolth at the very center of the city of Dark Elves. In the battle that decided the fate of the Dark Elves, countless Dark Elves had prayed in the temple of the goddess Lolth. The temple had released terrifying divine light, prohibiting flight, strengthening the city wall's defenses, weakening the fighting spirit of the attackers, weakening the power of all kinds of hostile spells, strengthening their own courage, upgrading their physical constitution, and upgrading the might of their own magic power. Under the strengthening of the temple of the goddess Lolth, the Dark Elves had erupted with terrifying battle prowess, nearly wiping out the human expeditionary army of more than 1 million people in one fell swoop. In the underworld, there were many dangers. The human expeditionary army had won, so be it. But once they were defeated, only the peak warlocks could escape from the underworld back to the surface world. The rest had died tragically at the jaws of all kinds of demonic insects and poisonous creatures in the underworld. Ever since that battle, the humans hadn't launched any more large-scale expeditions to the underground world, instead choosing to establish strongholds. If Yang Feng hadn't used nuclear warheads to kill the 3 black dragons worshipped by the Dark Elves in one fell swoop, as well as seriously injuring the Dark Elven Great Matriarch Xianxia, then he definitely wouldn't have dared to invade the city of Dark Elves with his main force. One after another, primary battle robots emerged from the dimensional troop carriers, causing the number of Yang Feng's mechanical legion to rise from 200,000 to 1 million. The 1 million level 8 primary battle robots. This was the main legion that Yang Feng had produced with all kinds of resources he had scoured for years. Once the 1 million level 8 primary battle robots were destroyed, then 2/3 of Yang Feng's mechanical legion would be destroyed, and several years of hard work would be wasted. With the whole world as his enemy, Yang Feng definitely wouldn't be able to persevere for too long. He could only wash the land with nuclear warheads until the nuclear warhead tactic was cracked. This plane's human warlocks had conquered countless planes, they were experienced and knowledgeable, and possessed countless reserves of knowledge. Furthermore, they had absorbed the knowledge of countless other planes, and created countless mystical spells. The nuclear warhead tactic had a fatal weakness. Once that weakness was discovered by warlocks, cracking it would only be slightly difficult for them, that's all. The weapons in the hands of the level 8 beast-type bladed troops as the main force were no longer electric batons, but rather the most powerful high-frequency oscillation blades. The city of Dark Elves wasn't a human city like Demonic Snake Fortress. Demonic Snake Fortress didn't have any human warlocks, it was basically unable to display its terrifying battle prowess. Yang Feng was very clear that he could easily occupy Demonic Snake Fortress, without any losses. As for the city of Dark Elves, Yang Feng didn't have full confidence in capturing it. I'm Yang Tai, one of Steel City's 10 marshals. People of the city of Dark Elves, listen up, immediately surrender and pledge allegiance to Steel City, and we'll give you a way out. Otherwise, after the city is breached, you'll all become Steel City slaves, never to be able to transcend. The 3 black dragons worshipped by the Dark Elves have already been eliminated by Steel City, and your great matriarch Xianxia has also been seriously injured by Steel City. Your allies, the Hellion clan, have also betrayed you. Take a look, who is this? Yang Feng waved his hand, and the rock giant Bonardine stepped out from the battle array, before facing upwards and issuing a long howl. I'm the rock giant Bonardine, under the orders of the undying Hellion monarch Napman, I came to help Steel City in a crusade against your Dark Elven clan. That's the rock giant Bonardine. It's really Bonardine, he's Napman's right-hand man. Could it be that the Hellion clan betrayed our alliance? When they saw the rock giant Bonardine, The pretty complexions of the dark elves changed, and a touch of fear flashed past the abyss of their beautiful eyes. In the underworld's races, purely in terms of strength, the Hellion clan was far stronger than the dark elves. However, the dark elves believed in the goddess Lolth, and had the support of the goddess Divine Power. In actual battles, the dark elves would often suppress the Hellion clan. After drawing support from the goddess Loltha's divine power, the great matriarch of the dark elves Xianxia's strength was infinitely close to that of a starry sky warlock, and her battle prowess could be rated as the #1 expert of the underworld's races. Thus, the dark elven clan suppressed the underworld's major races and obtained the right to speak in the allied forces of the underworld's races. However, the strength of the Hellion clan was absolutely tyrannical, and their experts were as common as clouds. Once the Hellion clan sided with Steel City, then the situation would be unthinkable. Chapter 168. Joanna was full of bewilderment, and her pretty face surged with a touch of wavering. Hellions are siding with Steel City? How is that possible? Yang Feng ordered coldly, "Cover the area with artillery fire." The 50,000 artillery troops adjusted their muzzles and launched a volley of artillery fire towards the city of dark elves. Boom, 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 boom. Tens of thousands of cannons roared in unison, the earth quaked and the mountains swayed. The dense volley of artillery fire landed on the city of dark elves' city wall, and more than 3,000 dark elves were killed or wounded in a single volley of artillery fire. Miserable screams came from among the dark elves. What a frightening magic artillery! Above the city of dark elves' city wall, the dark elves hid under the cover of the city wall, their hearts brimming with fear. This city of dark elves is really a tough nut to crack. Yang Feng's eyebrows creased slightly, and a touch of graveness flashed past the abyss of his eyes. He had watched very carefully a moment ago. The scope of the artillery fire of the artillery troops should have a diameter of 45 meters. But there was a mysterious force shrouding the city of dark elves, forcibly suppressing the scope of the artillery fire to about 3 meters. Moreover, the simultaneous barrage of the 50,000 artillery troops, if it was on Earth, could completely shave off a small hill. However, when the 50,000 artillery shells bombarded the city of dark elves, they merely left behind traces of smoke, and were unable to shake the city of dark elves in the slightest. Yang Feng had the 50,000 artillery troops carry out 2 volleys of artillery fire in a row, but the effect of the shelling was getting worse and worse. Above the city wall, the dark elves hid in the caverns of the city of dark elves, and weren't affected by the artillery fire in the slightest. Countless dark elves had already entered the temple of the goddess Lolth, prostrated themselves on the ground, and prayed very respectfully. Tremendous and pure faith power entered the statue of the goddess Lolth in the center of the temple, and then released formidable and pure divine power through the statue, firmly guarding the city of dark elves. After being blessed by the divine power of the goddess Lolth for several millennia, the city of dark elves had already begun to transcend the ordinary and possessed terrifying might. The city of dark elves was the greatest foundation of dark elves, as well as the greatest capital for dark elves to gain a foothold in the underworld. Mortals believed in gods, and gods protected mortals. The survival ability of a race that had the protection of a god was much stronger than other races. Because of this, many races in different planes had gods that they believed in. Those gods would also protect the races they protected, and the two were interdependent. Even the world of warlocks, before the rise of the first warlock dynasty, was also a world ruled by the ancient gods. All races believed in the ancient gods and were ruled by the ancient gods. After the rise of the first warlock dynasty's Time Lord, he led the human warlocks to kill, seal, and refine the ancient gods that ruled the world one by one, knocking the gods off their pedestals, and thus establishing the first glorious first warlock dynasty. Ever since the first warlock dynasty, human warlocks had continuously developed and strengthened, possessing power surpassing that of gods. Only then did they attack other planes everywhere, plundering their knowledge and civilization inheritances. In the colonization war of other planes, human warlocks encountered ancient demons, ancient fiends, ancient devils, giants, dragons, and other powerful enemies. Among them, the most powerful enemies were the gods from other planes. When the 8th Warlock dynasty attacked a plane that had the protection of a powerful god, it fought against that plane's powerful god until both sides suffered. Coupled with the internal strife within the dynasty, only then did it collapse. It was precisely because the gods were so powerful that even though the goddess Lolth was licentious and shameless, inciting the dark elves to kill each other and torture each other for fun, those dark elves still respectfully believed in her for several millennia, not daring to slight her in the slightest. Strength was the truth, weakness was a sin. Assault helicopters. Yang Feng's eyebrows creased slightly when he saw that the effects of the bombardment weren't great, and he ordered. 20 Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters suddenly took off, flew to an altitude of 300 meters, and then flew towards the city of Dark Elves. Yang Feng's gaze fell on the 20 Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters. Once the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters could fly into the city of Dark Elves, then he could directly use airdrop tactics and directly airdrop 100,000 beast-type bladed troops into the city of Dark Elves. When the 20 Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters were 200 meters away from the city of Dark Elves, they suddenly swayed. Although their propellers were constantly rotating, yet they didn't give rise to any hurricanes. They swayed and instantly fell from the sky to the ground. With a loud boom, they turned into 20 fireballs and exploded. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a touch of graveness. The no-space restriction array is indeed flawless. If the city of Dark Elves didn't have the no-space restriction array, then it would have already been captured by human warlocks. There was no lack of flight spells among human warlocks, and there were also many human warlocks who cultivated large numbers of flight extraordinary life forms. If they could fly, then with a single explosion, the city of Dark Elves would be insta-killed. Attack! Yang Feng's thoughts revolved lightning fast, and he immediately ordered. After Yang Feng contributed Demonic Snake Fortress, he practically didn't stop. He traveled day and night straight towards the city of Dark Elves, in order to capture the city of Dark Elves before they had the time to gather their allies. Once the Dark Elves gathered all of their powerful allies, then the difficulty of capturing the city of Dark Elves would increase by more than tenfold. The electronic eyes of the 100,000 beast-type bladed troops flashed with radiances, and they charged forward together. In a split second, as if 10,000 horses were galloping, the earth shook. Joanna ordered coldly, "Knight Scimitar ballistas, fire!" Among the ballista positions in the city of Dark Elves, radiances flashed, and 300 Knight Scimitar ballistas fired at the same time. 300 Knight Scimitar ballistas were shot in a flash, entering the densely packed group of beast-type bladed troops. Under the guidance of the Dark Elven Wizard, the 300 Knight Scimitar ballistas chopped 20 beast-type bladed troops into 2 pieces. With a single strike, 6,000 beast-type bladed troops were directly chopped into 2 pieces, falling on the charging path. The charging 100,000 bladed troops were like wheat being cut, falling in large numbers, with more than 1/20th of the bladed troops being chopped into 2 pieces. The price Dark Elves had to pay was 10,800 superior magic stones, which was equivalent to more than 140 million inferior magic stones. Artillery barrage. Yang Feng no longer thought about seizing anything, and immediately issued an order. The 50,000 heavy artillery once again rumbled, madly shelling the Dark Elves' Knight Scimitar ballistas. Warping force field. Dark Shadow Wood. Azure Wood shield. Among the Knight Scimitar ballistas, the Dark Elven Wizards cast defensive spells, resisting the bombardment of the heavy artillery. If it was outside the city of Dark Elves, then the Dark Elven Wizards would have already been torn to shreds by the countless artillery barrage. But inside the city of Dark Elves, the might of the artillery barrage was greatly weakened, while the Dark Elven Wizard's strength was greatly enhanced. Under the effects of 1+ and 1-, the majority of Yang Feng's heavy artillery barrage was actually forcibly blocked by the Dark Elven Wizards. Merely about 20 Knight Scimitar ballistas were smashed by Yang Feng's artillery barrage. Seeing the 6,000 beast-type bladed troops being chopped into 2 pieces, Yang Feng's pupils constricted slightly. He waved his hand, and 10,000 beast-type bladed troops continued to join the charging troops. At the same time, 3,000 engineering robots quickly arrived at the wreckage of the 6,000 beast-type bladed troops, quickly recovering the wreckage and transporting it to the rear. The night scimitar ballistas shot by the night scimitar ballistas were extremely sharp, even great warlocks couldn't resist them. However, it was precisely because the moon scimitar ballistas were too sharp that the damage to the beast-type bladed troops wasn't great. So long as they were slightly repaired, then they could once again enter the battlefield. Suddenly, boulders weighing more than a dozen or even several hundred tons were thrown from the city of Dark Elves, smashing towards the beast-type bladed troops. The boulders fell from a height of 100 meters, directly smashing the protective covers of the beast-type bladed troops and smashing them into pieces. At the same time, the beast-type bladed troops were smashed into pieces, with components splashing in all directions. Under the bombardment of the boulders, more than 400 beast-type bladed troops were smashed into pieces, and even exploded. Yang Feng's face twitched slightly when he saw this scene. The bladed troops smashed into pieces by the boulders, even if their wreckage was recovered, but they still needed to be sent back to the surface world's munitions factories to be melted down. Only then could they be manufactured again. In other words, Yang Feng couldn't recover them before the end of the war. When the 100,000 beast-type bladed troops arrived before the moat of the city of Dark Elves, they stopped at once. Inside the moat in front of the city of Dark Elves, black liquid was churning, continuously bubbling and emitting traces of black fog. As soon as the beast-type bladed troops approached the moat, many parts of their bodies showed signs of slow corrosion. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a touch of graveness. Dark Poison River, the most terrifying moat of the city of Dark Elves. Once one falls into it, then even great warlock rank experts will be corroded into slag. Release the arrows. Joanna shouted sternly, and suddenly shot countless arrows from above the city of Dark Elves, shooting towards the beast-type bladed troops. The majority of the arrows were blocked by the protective covers of the beast-type bladed troops, but there were still more than 3,000 arrows that pierced through the protective covers of the beast-type bladed troops and stabbed into their bodies. Among the more than 3,000 arrows, more than 300 arrows directly exploded, blasting 200 beast-type bladed troops into pieces. In the city of Dark Elves, experts were as common as clouds, and the archery of many archers could even penetrate the protective spells of level 2 warlocks. Under the blessing of the temple, they would become even more powerful. Chapter 169. As soon as the Dark Elven archers emerged, the 100,000 gunner troops immediately opened fire, and countless Gauss shells shot towards the Dark Elves. In a split second, more than 1,000 Dark Elves above the city of Dark Elves city wall were blown up by the gunner troops. Joanna's complexion changed slightly when she saw this. There were a large number of priests in the city of Dark Elves. With the help of divine power, the priests could cast divine spells to heal the wounded. But after being hit by the Gauss shells, the Dark Elves would either die or be crippled. Unless superior divine spells were cast, it would be very difficult to heal them. The gunner troops' firepower completely suppressed the Dark Elves above the city wall. The engineering robots quickly erected thick steel pontoon bridges above the Poison River. Once the steel pontoon bridges were erected, the 50,000 artillery troops adjusted their muzzles, and madly bombarded the huge ancient trees and vines crawling above the city of Dark Elves. The gunner troops also madly fired at the huge ancient trees and vines with their Gauss shells. Under the frenzied barrage, the huge ancient trees and vines crawling above the city of Dark Elves were broken inch by inch, fell into the moat, issued sizzling sounds, and melted. Joanna's complexion changed slightly, and she barked, "Fuck! Wake them up!" The druids among the Dark Elves took out precious magic powder and sprinkled it on the huge ancient trees and vines. When the various huge ancient trees and vines were sprinkled with the magic powder, they immediately grew eyes, ears, mouths, and noses, and emitted formidable fluctuations of extraordinary life. White phosphorus incendiary bombs. Under Yang Feng's command, the already prepared powerful incendiary bombs were fired in a flash and blasted at the huge ancient trees and vines. Boom! Large swathes of flames rose from the ancient vines, burning the ancient vines to the point of letting out incomparably mournful screams. Then, one by one, they were directly burned to death. Rain mist. Water jet. Water element spells were cast, sweeping towards the ancient trees and vines. The rain mist slowly suppressed the flames. Dispel. Standing next to Yang Feng, Dephilia waved her lily-white hand, and a formidable dispel erupted in a flash, dispersing the spells cast by the dark elven wizards. Countless white phosphorus incendiary bombs were fired once again, exploding on those huge ancient vines. They burned crazily, burning countless huge ancient vines into ashes. In the city of dark elves, there were as many as 30,000 elven wizards. However, the elven mages were scattered on different battlefields, and most of them had to resist various artillery attacks. The elven wizards near the city wall couldn't suppress the great warlock Dephilia. Under the bombardment of Dephilia's dispel spell and white phosphorus incendiary bombs, those incomparably powerful ancient trees and vines were all burnt to ashes. Joanna was slightly startled within. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of graveness. Human Great Warlock. Steel City actually has a human Great Warlock overseeing it. Human Great Warlocks were definitely the great enemies of the underworld's major races. No matter what kind of battle they were the cornerstone of existence. After the awakened extraordinary ancient trees and vines were burnt to ashes, a dense crowd of beast-type mechanical bladed troops quickly crossed the pontoon and arrived below the city of dark elves. As if big spiders, their 6 mechanical arms were attached to the city wall, advancing alternately and madly climbing up the city wall. Fuck those freaks. Above the city wall, the dark elves watched as the big spider-like mechanical bladed troops climbed up the city wall. Their scalps turned numb and their hearts turned extremely cold. It was the first time that they had seen such a siege method. In the past, if human warlocks wanted to capture the city of dark elves shrouded in the goddess Loltha's divine power, they would have to manufacture catapults, ballistae, scaling ladders and other siege weapons, and then use the siege weapons to advance step by step. The dark elves could rely on the up to 100 meters tall city wall to inflict tremendous damage to the enemies besieging the city. But now, those beast-type mechanical bladed troops had actually climbed up the city wall. This scene was simply appalling. A lot of dark elves could only risk their lives to draw their bows and madly shoot at the beast-type mechanical bladed troops below. A dense crowd of arrows shot at the beast-type mechanical bladed troops, piercing through a lot of them. The dark elven experts had just emerged when the dense crowd of gunner troops at once enveloped them. Hundreds and thousands of extremely charming dark elves were blasted apart, their corpses falling to the ground from above the city wall. In this decisive battle that would decide Steel City's future, it was impossible for Yang Feng to show mercy to the fairer sex. He could only attack the city of dark elves in the strongest way possible. If necessary, he wouldn't hesitate to use nuclear weapons to bombard the city of dark elves. Yang Feng had to win this battle. Once he was defeated, there would be no place for him in the entire Tyrannid subcontinent. Joanna said coldly, "Dispatch the mountain giants." The mountain giants were one of Dark Elven clan's trump cards. Adult mountain giants were up to 30 meters tall, with terrifying defensive strength and an extremely formidable life force. They were categorized as Level 4 extraordinary life forms and could contend against great warlock rank experts. In the past several millennia, the entire Dark Elven clan had only subdued 4 mountain giants under the guidance of the goddess Lolth. A Dark Elven beauty said with a bitter smile, "Great Matriarch, you still haven't held the inheritance ceremony and obtained the recognition of the mighty goddess Lolth. You still haven't obtained the divine spells and the dark scepter bestowed by the goddess Lolth. You simply can't command the mountain giants. Once they're awakened, they'll immediately become our enemies." Joanna's pretty face suddenly became very unsightly. The time she had spent seizing power was really too short. Even though the upper echelon of Dark Elven clan had chosen to submit to her, but the power that originally belonged to the great matriarch hadn't been handed over to her. If it was a time of peace, then as long as she performed several wicked sacrifices to the goddess Lolth, she would be able to control the power of the entire Dark Elven clan under the guidance of the goddess Lolth. But she had just rebelled, and Yang Feng had led his troops over. She basically couldn't inherit the power that should belong to the great matriarch. At this moment, the beast-type bladed troops under the cover of the gunner troops and artillery troops climbed the city wall. Once they climbed the city wall, as if moving meat grinders, they rushed into the Dark Elven camp. A copious amount of blood splashed. The beast-type bladed troops, as if peerless generals, madly slaughtered the Dark Elves within their range of attack. The countless beast-type bladed troops instantly tore an opening in the midst of the Dark Elves, before rushing into the city in a steady stream. "Break for me!" A Dark Elven archer with battle prowess comparable to that of a level 3 human warlock gave a shrill cry and shot an arrow. As if a shooting star, an arrow pierced through the protective cover of a beast-type bladed troop, before exploding and blasting it to pieces. The Dark Elven archer didn't even have time to gasp for breath, before more than 30 beast-type bladed troops rushed towards her. The nearly 100 spider drow guarding in front of the Dark Elven archer also rushed over and attacked the beast-type bladed troops. The beast-type bladed troops erupted with a protective cover. After blocking the attacks of the spider drow, they brandished the high-frequency oscillation blades in their hands and easily chopped the spider drow to pieces. The spider drow were considered to be battle golems with excellent martial arts, but in front of the terrifying beast-type bladed troops that combined offense and defense, they were simply unable to withstand a single blow. Bearing the countless fragments, the more than 30 beast-type bladed troops at once rushed before the Dark Elven archer. The Dark Elven archer's complexion changed greatly, her figure shook, and she fled towards the rear. When the Dark Elven fled, she exposed the large number of elite Dark Elven warriors behind her. The beast-type bladed troops rushed into the midst of the elite Dark Elven warriors and started a frenzied massacre. In just a dozen seconds, they killed the more than 100 Dark Elven warriors at the cost of 0 casualties. Once the beast-type bladed troops entered the city wall, they slaughtered the Dark Elven warriors as if they were crushing dry weeds. Under the blessing of the Temple of Loltha's divine power, the Dark Elven warriors were brave and good at fighting, and their battle prowess had increased by more than 50%. But against the beast-type bladed troops, they still didn't have the slightest bit of resistance. Only the most skilled and powerful Dark Elven archers, who possessed the power to kill warlocks, still continued to resist, as they shot the beast-type bladed troops to death. A steady stream of melting wax demons, spider drow, and all kinds of wicked weapons poured out of the city of Dark Elves, serving as cannon fodder to meet the beast-type bladed troops, before being chopped into pieces by the beast-type bladed troops. "Master, let me join the battle," the rock giant Bonardine shouted in a muffled voice. Such a bloody battle made his blood boil. Yang Feng shook his head slightly. "Now is still not the time. It's too dangerous for you to go." Inside the city of Dark Elves, there were more than 100 Night Scimitar ballistas. The Night Scimitar ballistas had the terrifying power to threaten great warlock rank experts. Once the rock giant Bonardine rushed into the city of Dark Elves, there was a possibility that he would be killed. With his huge body, even though it allowed him to obtain terrifying power, but it also made him a huge target, easily hit by weapons like the Night Scimitar ballistas. If such a good fighter like the rock giant Bonardine were to die in vain in a place like the city of Dark Elves, then Yang Feng would suffer a great loss. He still wanted to take it to another plane to go on a campaign. The rock giant Bonardine muttered somewhat discontentedly, and then became well-behaved. These days, Yang Feng had already used the liquid metal nanorobots injected into its body to teach it a lesson that would leave a deep impression, making the always violent rock giant become well-behaved. Joanna took out the pitch-black, peerlessly exquisite legend rank bow Night Star engraved with countless mysterious runes. With the bow in hand, Joanna was in high spirits, and a domineering aura spread from her. Joanna's lily-white hands moved unceasingly, emerald-green arrows containing formidable life force instantly shot out, easily piercing through beast-type bladed troops, and then exploded, blasting the beast-type bladed troops into pieces. In a short 1 minute, more than 100 beast-type bladed troops had been blown to pieces by Joanna. However, Joanna had killed 100 beast-type bladed troops within a minute, yet close to 1,000 bladed troops had jumped up from above the city of Dark Elves city wall. It gave people a feeling of endless despair. Joanna clenched her teeth and unleashed the secret method Thousand Arrow Rain. The night star in her hands shot out an emerald green arrow, before splitting into 1,000 and madly shooting at the beast-type bladed troops. Thousand Arrow Rain was one of the strongest inherited archery skills of the Dark Elves, and was also an archery skill passed down by a goddess of the Dark Elven divine system. One arrow could attack 1,000 enemies. However, its weakness was that its power was too scattered, and it wasn't useful against powerful enemies. After the 1,000 emerald green arrows hit the protective covers of the beast-type bladed troops and set off ripples, they immediately collapsed. Joanna couldn't help but say powerlessly, "Damn it, the defensive strength of these alchemical golems is really too strong." With the help of the legendary Bow Night Star, Joanna's Thousand Arrow Rain could kill a level 1 warlock, but it was unable to penetrate the protective covers of the beast-type bladed troops, making her feel some despair. At this moment, the Night Scimitar ballistas, which were suppressed by Yang Feng's artillery and didn't dare to come out, once again launched. Night Scimitar ballistas suddenly erupted, chopping the beast-type bladed troops in two. More than 4,000 beast-type bladed troops were chopped in a split second. However, the beast-type bladed troops were still pouring into the city of Dark Elves in a steady stream. Under the Dark Elves' all-out resistance, more than 30,000 beast-type bladed troops had already been destroyed. However, there were also 30,000 beast-type bladed troops that had rushed into the city of Dark Elves, as if entering a no-man's land, went on a killing spree, forming rivers of blood wherever they passed. The Dark Elven experts desperately resisted, but could only retreat in defeat. An upper-class Dark Elf couldn't help but ask Joanna, "Great Matriarch, what do we do now?" The gazes of the other upper-class Dark Elves were focused on Joanna, the newly appointed Great Matriarch, thirsting for an answer. Joanna played it down, "What else can we do? Since we can't beat them, then surrender. In any case, it's not like we Dark Elves have never surrendered to humans." Joanna's words gave rise to a great uproar among the upper-class Dark Elves. In the era of the ancient warlocks, even the primary goddess of the Dark Elves Lolth didn't dare to provoke the ancient warlocks, and obediently hid in her divine country, not daring to come out. She was afraid of being caught by the ancient warlocks, and then treated as a pet or a bed-warming slave. Tyrannid subcontinent's Dark Elves were also pets raised by the ancient warlocks. Chapter 170. However, the glory of the ancient warlocks had already passed. Under the protection and guidance of the goddess Lolth, the Dark Elves had already become half the rulers of the underworld. They were extremely arrogant, and even considered themselves to be a higher species than humans. Now, Joanna actually wanted them to surrender to a human. This was simply a great humiliation for them. The upper-class Dark Elves looked at each other, then carefully looked at the battlefield. After contemplating for a long time, they finally decided to surrender to Yang Feng. Under the instigation of the goddess Lolth, the Dark Elves fought ceaselessly. Although this forced the Dark Elves to rely more and more on the goddess, providing them with even more pious faith power. However, it also fostered the Dark Elves' temperament of bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Surrender was a common occurrence. The goddess Lolth didn't forbid the Dark Elves from surrendering. Otherwise, if the Dark Elves were to continuously attack each other and fight to the death until the last moment, then the entire Dark Elven race would have been exterminated due to internal strife. Many of the upper-class Dark Elves secretly heaved a slight sigh of relief. They didn't want to fight against the alchemical golems. As upper-class Dark Elves, they cherished their lives very much. They weren't willing to exchange their lives for those alchemical golems. Joanna looked around and said in a loud voice, "Yang Tai, we surrender. Please stop slaughtering our people." Yang Feng was somewhat bewildered as he mused, "They surrendered so easily? What about the mountain giant? What about the resentful soul monster? What about the large area of effect offensive divine spells?" After reading the records of the war between the Dark Elves and human warlocks for thousands of years, Yang Feng knew that the Dark Elves at least had these 3 trump cards. He had already mentally prepared himself for more than 400,000 primary battle robots to be destroyed. But now, only 30,000 plus primary battle robots were destroyed, yet the Dark Elves chose to surrender, leaving him somewhat bewildered. Give up resistance, drop your weapons, raise your hands high, surrender and you won't be killed. Yang Feng's mind moved, and the beast-type bladed troops transmitted cold voices from their loudspeakers, urging them to surrender. The Dark Elven warriors were originally only under the blessing of the divine power released by the temple. They were courageous enough to fight against the ice-cold, ruthless and powerful beast-type bladed troops. Now that they heard Joanna's words of surrender, their hearts turned cold and their morale dropped to the extreme. They dropped their weapons, raised their hands high and chose to surrender. The upper-class Dark Elves also urged them to surrender one after another. The entire city of Dark Elves surrendered at the mere sight of the wind, opening its gates and letting Yang Feng's beast-type mechanical legion march straight in. After the Dark Elves surrendered, Joanna led the upper-class Dark Elves to have an audience with Yang Feng. Joanna looked straight at Yang Feng and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Marshal Yang Tai, I am the great matriarch of the Dark Elves, Joanna. We, the Dark Elven clan, have already pledged allegiance to you. We hope that you can exempt us from the status of slaves." Yang Feng glanced at the upper-class Dark Elves who came to have an audience. Although the upper-echelon Dark Elves had dark skin, their figures were curvaceous, sexy, gorgeous, and extremely flirtatious. When the upper-class Dark Elves saw that Yang Feng's gaze fell on them, their faces revealed traces of charming smiles. They stroked their hair coquettishly and unceasingly threw flirtatious glances at Yang Feng. Joanna was incomparably beautiful and had a heroic temperament, which made her feel out of place among the upper echelons of the Dark Elves. Yang Feng said without batting an eyelid, "Isn't Xianxia the great matriarch of the Dark Elves?" Joanna said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Xianxia was the great matriarch of the past, while I am the great matriarch of the Dark Elves." Joanna was a great warlock rank expert. Moreover, her power wasn't sealed. Even if she was in Yang Feng's lair, she still had the confidence to escape from Yang Feng. Yang Feng said lightly, "Is Xianxia still alive?" Joanna hesitated for a moment before saying, "She's alive." Yang Feng said lightly, "Leave her to me. Then, I need the Dark Elves to attack the city of Hellions with me. After capturing the city of Hellions, I'll pardon you for your crime of rebellion and abolish your status as slaves of the Dark Elves. Under my command, I won't let anyone do anything unfair to the Dark Elves. Whether it's humans or Dark Elves, as long as they don't violate my laws, I'll treat them equally." The corners of Joanna's mouth rose slightly and she said promptly, "All right, Marshal Yang Feng." "You're Yang Feng? Impossible? Yang Feng doesn't look like this." The Dark Elven upper echelon's pretty complexions changed and they exclaimed. Steel City's forces had already attracted the attention of the Dark Elves. They had spent a great deal of effort to collect the images of Steel City's important figures, so they naturally knew what Yang Feng looked like. Yang Feng was slightly startled, yet he said without batting an eyelid, "What are you talking about? I'm Yang Tai, not Marshal Yang Feng." "No soul. The golem avatar you made is very exquisite. It looks exactly like a living person." With a cursory look from a distance, even a great warlock rank expert would find it difficult to discover the difference between it and a living person. But as long as one looks closely, one would be able to discover that the golem avatar doesn't have a soul. Any intelligent life form has a soul. Your golem avatar doesn't have the smell of a soul, it can only be an avatar. Steel City City Master, Yang Yi, doesn't get close to women. The only one who would ask me for Xianxia is you, the only blood relative of the Steel Lord, Yang Feng. Only you have the authority to formulate Steel City's laws. Joanna analyzed calmly. Yang Feng's complexion changed slightly. He stared fixedly at Joanna, clapped his hands and said extremely frigidly, "Joanna, you're really smart. Unfortunately, you're too smart. Haven't you heard of the saying that knowing too much can lead to death?" The rock giant Bonardine took a step forward, directly sealing the retreat of the upper-class dark elves in the room. Outside the room, countless primary battle robots took out their weapons and pointed at the room. Dephilia also sighed faintly, flipped her lily-white hand, and the legend-rank secret treasure ice snow box appeared in her hand. Although she appreciated Joanna's intelligence, but since Yang Feng had already spoken, she could only act. The corners of Joanna's mouth rose slightly, her beautiful eyes flashing with a touch of disdain. "You want to keep me here by relying on Snow White Madam and that stupid rock giant? Of course it's not just them. I'm not that naive to think that you can keep a legend-ranked dark elven expert with just 2 great warlocks. If you add them to the mix, then what are your chances of escaping?" Yang Feng pressed the dimensional crest on his chest, and rays of light suddenly flew out from the dimensional crest. Muffin demonic polar bear, blue Dokfen demonic ice wolf, Amani light wing ice bird, Kalaman boa, one after another, mechanical battle beasts comparable to level 4 extraordinary life forms appeared in the surroundings, exuding great warlock rank life force. A total of 10 mechanical battle beasts comparable to level 4 extraordinary life forms surrounded Joanna and the other dark elven experts, exuding a terrifying life force as they stared fixedly at Joanna. Under the coercion of those mechanical battle beasts comparable to level 4 extraordinary life forms, the pretty complexions of the upper-class dark elves changed, their delicate bodies trembling slightly. Even Joanna's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of dread. The 10 mechanical battle beasts comparable to level 4 extraordinary life forms, coupled with Dephilia and the rock giant Bonardine, had a 90% chance of killing Joanna. Joanna couldn't help but feel a touch of remorse, secretly hating herself for talking too much just now. Joanna looked straight at Yang Feng and said lightly, "What do you want? Do you want to kill us here to keep us quiet?" "I really don't want to silence us." Yang Feng clapped his hands. A robot holding a vial of liquid metal nanorobot elixir came out. Yang Feng said lightly, "This is a god-extinguishing elixir. As long as I inject it into each of you, I can guarantee that you won't betray me. That way, there's no need to silence us." Joanna's eyes were as sharp as blades as she said coldly, "And if I say no?" Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a touch of a cold glint. "Although it's a pity, but I can only get rid of you here, and then support Xianxia. She's the former great matriarch of Dark Elven Clan. I think that she should be able to quickly take control of Dark Elven Clan." Joanna was silent for a moment, before saying, "What are the side effects of this elixir? Will it affect one's mind?" Yang Feng said with a smile, "There are no side effects, nor will it affect one's mind. Moreover, it's of great benefit to the human body. It can assist in your cultivation, and also clean the impurities within your body. Apart from being used to control people, the liquid metal nanorobots could also be used in the medical field and the cultivation field." Yang Feng had injected himself with a large amount of liquid metal nanorobots to clean the impurities within his body and improve his physical constitution over time. Joanna said lightly, "All right, I promise you." The robot stepped forward and injected the liquid metal nanorobot elixir into Joanna. Joanna was a great warlock rank expert. Her physical constitution was extremely formidable. Once the liquid metal nanorobots entered her body, 1/3 of them were directly killed by her immune system. The remaining 2/3 of the liquid metal nanorobots fused with her. The other upper-class dark elves saw that Joanna didn't resist and was injected with the liquid metal nanorobot elixir. They knew that resistance was futile and obediently allowed themselves to be injected with the elixir. Yang Feng sensed the changes within Joanna's body, and his eyes flashed with a touch of regret. At present, the limit of the improved liquid metal nanorobots can only control great warlock rank experts. They can't control starry sky warlock rank experts. Chapter 171. Yang Feng asked, "Joanna, where's Romulage?" Night Hunter Romulage was a peak legendary assassin of the Dark Elves. If he could subdue her, then Yang Feng's power would once again rise by a large margin. On the contrary, if he were to be enemies with her, then Yang Feng would have to worry about the assassination of a legend-rank assassin at all times. Currently, Yang Feng merely possessed the strength of a level 1 warlock. If his main body were to encounter such a top-notch assassin, he would definitely be in a perilous situation. Joanna said faintly, Romulage has always been a loner and only obeys the orders of the great matriarch of the Dark Elves. It hasn't been long since I became the great matriarch of the Dark Elves, so I haven't contacted her yet. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a touch of a fierce glint, and he said solemnly, Then forget it. Joanna, go back and immediately select a group of Dark Elven experts to attack the city of Hellions with me. I'll capture the city of Hellions today. The Dark Elves and demons had more than one city in the underworld. But the city of Dark Elves and the city of Hellions were definitely the most important cities of the two races. Once the city of Dark Elves and the city of Hellions were captured by Yang Feng, then he would have two strongholds in the underworld, as well as inflicting heavy losses on the allied forces of the underworld's various races. Hellions and Dark Elves were the core of the underworld's allied forces. If the nests of the two clans were to be raided by Yang Feng, then the impact on the underworld's allied forces could be imagined. It wasn't impossible for it to directly cause the alliance to break. Moreover, in the city of Hellions, there were all kinds of treasures collected by Hellions for millennia. Once the city of Hellions was captured, then Yang Feng would be able to seize a large amount of wealth and obtain a large amount of supplies. They could also use the main demon city as a stronghold to attack the other demon cities. Joanna's heart skipped a beat. Today, the city of Hellions is 4,000 miles away from our city of Dark Elves. Yang Feng said with a slight smile, That's right, today is the day. If you can't think of it, they definitely can't either. There was a huge difference between the mechanical army and the human army. As long as they had enough energy, they could keep moving and fighting until their components were damaged or their energy was depleted. After a brief pondering, Joanna immediately agreed, All right. Of the 1 million battle robots Yang Feng brought with him, 100,000 were stationed in the city of Dark Elves, while the remaining 900,000 along with the Dark Elven experts rushed towards the city of Hellions. Among the 100,000 battle robots stationed in the city of Dark Elves, there were also 5,000 engineering robots. The 5,000 engineering robots took all kinds of materials and quickly started building all kinds of munitions factories and defensive installations in the city of Dark Elves. They wanted to fortify the city of Dark Elves. Yang Feng didn't intend to let the Dark Elves continue to worship the goddess Lolth. In this way, the city of Dark Elves would lose the baptism of goddess Loltha's divine power and become an ordinary giant city. However, after the city of Dark Elves was rebuilt by Yang Feng's mechanical legion, it could transform into a terrifying fortress of another form. About an hour after the army commanded by Yang Feng had left the city of Dark Elves, a figure invisible to the naked eye was silently shuttling back and forth in the direction of the holy spring divine pool within the temple. In every corner of the temple stood beast-type bladed troops, gunner troops, and artillery troops. The figure silently shuttled back and forth among the battle robots, before quietly sneaking into the holy spring divine pool and seeing Xianxia, who was severely injured and paralyzed inside the holy spring divine pool. Big Sister Xianxia, you cut a sorry figure. Space distorted, and a petite girl with a pair of pointy ears, a pair of D-cups, and exquisite facial features walked out of the distorted space. She looked to be only 16 or 17 years old. She had a pair of pointed ears, an extremely good figure, and a pair of D-cups. Xianxia's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of a complicated glint, and she said with a bitter smile, Romulage, you're late. If Romulage was still in the city of Dark Elves, then with Xianxia's prestige coupled with Romulage's support, she would have been able to suppress the rebellion started by Joanna. Joanna didn't even dare to think of rebelling. But now that the city of Dark Elves had fallen into Yang Feng's hands, Yang Feng was God knows how many times stronger than Joanna. For the two of them to recapture the city of Dark Elves, it was simply a pipe dream. Romulage said, It's still not too late. As long as you're rescued, then we'll still have a chance in the future. With the help of the goddess Loltha's power, your injuries will heal. Xianxia's body was covered in radiation tumors and her legs were blown off. With such injuries, even if it was a great warlock, if they didn't have the corresponding knowledge, then they would have a slim chance of survival. However, Xianxia was a high priest, with the help of the goddess Loltha's divine power, she could slowly recover. Even her broken legs could be regenerated by divine spells in the future. Xianna's beautiful eyes ignited with the flames of hope and ambition, and she said solemnly, "All right, take me away from here, and one day, I'll take back everything that belongs to me." "I'm very sorry to disturb your reunion. Miss Romulage, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Yang Tai, one of Steel City's 10 marshals. I'd like to cordially invite you to join our Steel City." Yang Feng walked out from the direction Romulage had come from and looked at her with a smile. Boom! Along with loud sounds, Muffin demonic polar bear, Amani light-winged icebird, Kalaman boa, and the other 10 level 4 extraordinary life form rank mechanical battle beasts encircled Romulage from all directions, firmly staring at her. 10 great warlock rank life force instantly erupted, surging in the space. Xianna's pretty face paled when she saw this scene, and her beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of despair. After the 10 level 4 extraordinary life forms were modified by Yang Feng, they were transformed into mechanical battle beasts. However, the life force of each mechanical battle beast as well as their battle prowess were much weaker than when they were alive. Even so, under the siege of the 10 level 4 extraordinary life form rank mechanical battle beasts, a legend rank assassin like Romulage would definitely die without a doubt. But at her peak, Xianna could rely on all kinds of trump cards to escape from the hands of the 10 mechanical battle beasts. Romulage swept Yang Feng with a glance and said with a contemptuous smile, "You're not a human, but just an alchemical golem. According to you humans, what kind of man are those who hide their heads and show their tails?" As an assassin, Romulage's eyesight surpassed that of many great warlocks. She could see at a glance that Yang Feng was possessing a robot. Yang Feng said with a smile, "Aren't you the same? If we're talking about hiding your head and showing your tails, then you're in such a state all day long." Romulage said coldly, "That's different. I'm an assassin. Hiding my head and showing my tails is a requirement of my profession. As the leader of a force, as a monarch, hiding your head and showing your tails all day long will never lead to great achievements. I've never heard of any of the 8 great warlock dynasties founding emperors who hid their heads and showed their tails. Am I right, Yang Feng?" Yang Feng said faintly, "You're comparing me to the founding emperors of the 8 great warlock dynasties. You really think highly of me. I'm still relatively self-aware. With my current strength as a level 1 warlock, if I didn't hide my head and show my tails, then I wouldn't know how many times I would have died. In this world, the winner is king and the loser a bandit. I only seek victory. As for the process, it doesn't matter. Romulage, do you surrender or not?" Romulage sighed somewhat vexedly and said, "There's no way around it. I can't beat so many alchemical golems. I surrender." With a flick of his wrist, Yang Feng took out a vial of liquid metal nanorobot elixir and walked towards Romulage. "Stand still, let me give you an injection." Romulage's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of a peculiar glint and she said with ridicule, "You can only rely on alchemical elixirs to control others, then you'll never be able to gain their true loyalty. Even if I yield to the elixir's power, I still won't admire you. I don't need your admiration, I only need you to obey my orders and not betray me. People are fickle, I still believe in the power of alchemy." Yang Feng remained unmoved. He directly pricked Romulage's arm with the vial of liquid metal nanorobot elixir and injected the elixir into her body. Romulage's immune system at once activated, killing 1/10 of the liquid metal nanorobots. Her eyebrows rose slightly, but she didn't say anything. After she agreed to let Yang Feng inject her with the elixir, she understood that what Yang Feng was injecting was definitely nothing good. After injecting the liquid metal nanorobot elixir into Romulage's body, Yang Feng heaved a slight sigh of relief. One could be a thief for 1,000 days, but one couldn't guard against a thief for 1,000 days. For Yang Feng, a legendary assassin like Romulage was the most frightening and most dangerous existence. Once she locked onto the position of his true body, then Yang Feng would have a slim chance of survival. But once she became Yang Feng's person, then she would be equivalent to having the sharpest blade in his hands. Romulage said lightly, Help me cure big sister Xianxia's injuries. As long as you cure her, then I'll serve you wholeheartedly. Whoever you want me to kill, I'll kill. Even if it's Anthony Aldrich, those old freaks, as long as they dare to come out of their lairs, then I'll assassinate them in front of you. Yang Feng said somewhat expectantly, You're good at killing people, then what about being a bodyguard? Yang Feng's cultivation base as a level 1 warlock was already considered as an expert in Tyrandot subcontinent, but in front of great warlock rank experts, he was basically unable to withstand a single blow. What he lacked the most was a powerful bodyguard. Romulage thought for a moment, then shook her head slightly and said, I'm an assassin, not a bodyguard. I'm good at killing people, but I'm not good at protecting people. All right, I'll help you cure big sister Xianxia's injuries. Besides, I also need her to serve me. Yang Feng took out a vial of liquid metal nanorobot elixir and injected it into Xianxia's body. Chapter 172. Once the liquid metal nanorobots were injected into Xianxia's body, they quickly cleaned up the cancerous radiation cells inside her. Shizu's research on nuclear power by far surpassed the level of Tyrandot subcontinent's warlocks. Those liquid metal nanorobots also had the miraculous effect of cleaning up the power of nuclear radiation. Xianxia only felt her throat emit bursts of strange movements. She opened her cherry lips and spat out a pitch-black, ink-like filth emitting a disgusting stench. After Xianxia spat out that mouthful of filth, she felt her whole body become a lot more relaxed and comfortable. It's still not enough, your body is too much. It seems like I have to inject more elixirs. Yang Feng's eyebrows creased slightly, and he immediately took out 5 vials of liquid metal nanorobots and injected them into Xianxia's body. The original treatment method of liquid metal nanorobots was to stimulate the human body's potential, to let the human burst out with formidable life force, and to remove all kinds of diseases and toxins from the body. Although Xianxia was a legend rank expert, but her injuries were too serious, and she could only rely on the liquid metal nanorobots to remove the power of radiation from her body. Therefore, the consumption was enormous. Once the 5 vials of liquid metal nanorobot elixirs entered Xianxia's body, they quickly cleaned up the cancerous radiation cells inside her. The ugly radiation tumors on Xianxia's body burst open one by one, and oozed out layers of rancid pus. The scars all over her body fell off one by one, revealing a bright and flawless, alluring and lovely body. Xianxia's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of excitement. She waved her lily-white hand and cast the level 4 divine spell Great Healing. An incomparably resplendent divine light shrouded her body. Bursts of numbness and itchiness were transmitted from the severed parts of Xianxia's legs. Countless granulation tissues squirmed, and a pair of elegant and slender legs slowly grew out. The level 4 divine spell Great Healing originally had the miraculous effect of regenerating severed fingers, but it had always been interfered with by the power of radiation inside Xianxia's body, which was why it was unable to repair her severed limbs. Now that the radiation energy was completely removed by the liquid metal nanorobots, Xianxia used a level 4 divine spell to repair her severed limbs. Xianxia jumped lightly and jumped out of the holy spring divine pool. Countless streams of water washed her body, cleansing away all the filth. From a disgusting and ugly cripple with tumors all over his body and 2 broken legs, he had transformed into a bright, moving and peerlessly beautiful dark elf. Xianxia gave a flirtatious smile and said charmingly, Thank you Sir Yang Feng for your help. Xianxia is willing to serve you as my master. Yang Feng revealed a trace of a smile. She's really sensible, no wonder she could become the great matriarch of the Dark Elves. Since Xianxia was so sensible, Yang Feng didn't let her have a taste of the liquid metal nanorobot's backlash. Even such a proud and powerful expert infinitely close to the starry sky warlock rank like Carolina couldn't resist the backlash of the liquid metal nanorobots, so it was impossible for Xianxia to resist it. Yang Feng waved his hand and threw a mobile phone to Romulage. Xianxia, come with me to the city of Hellions and attack it. Romulage, guard the city of Dark Elves in secret. If anything happens, use this magic soundbox to notify me. Romulage took the mobile phone and fiddled with it, revealing a trace of curiosity. The magic soundbox manufactured by your Steel City looks really unique. The magic soundbox, such a convenient alchemical item, was also the focus of the transactions between dark elves and human warlocks. Basically, every upper-class dark elves had one in their hands. Romulage had seen a lot of them, but she hadn't seen an Earth-style mobile phone. Shanna said deferentially, "Yes, sir." Only then did Yang Feng take Xianxia and the 8 level 4 extraordinary life form rank mechanical battle beasts towards the city of Hellion clans. The flying speed of the Amani light-winged icebirds surpassed the speed of sound. They could catch up to the troops ahead. It was precisely because of this that Yang Feng had left the 10 mechanical battle beasts to guard Xianxia. He hadn't expected that he would be so lucky as to capture Romulage. The city of Hellions. Different from the city of Dark Elves, the city of Hellions was merely a huge city with a city wall more than 30 meters tall. Within the city of Hellions, there were all kinds of grotesquely shaped lairs. Hellions were monsters artificially manufactured by the Second Warlock Dynasty's Taboo Lord, with humans as the main body and the blood meridians of various formidable beings from different planes. Hellions possessed the blood meridians of countless formidable beings. Every single one of those greater Hellions was a formidable existence comparable to extraordinary life forms. The 5 great Hellion ancestors even possessed the terrifying power to slaughter gods. It was precisely because Hellions were so formidable that they didn't believe in any gods. At the same time, they weren't proficient in alchemy. Without the support of formidable alchemy, no matter how sturdy the city wall they built, it still wouldn't be able to withstand a blow from an expert. A casual all-out blow from a great warlock could destroy the city of Hellions. They naturally weren't willing to waste their efforts. Hellions could obtain most of the other party's knowledge and a part of their power by devouring them. Therefore, the majority of Hellions didn't like to bitterly practice cultivation, but rather thought of ways to hunt humans. This was the reason why humans were so hostile towards Hellions and wanted to exterminate them. In the underground world, the fiendish demon clan was definitely the strongest clan. Although Dark Elven clan had Xianxia, the number 1 expert of the underworld, but the number of great warlocks of Dark Elven clan was far less than that of Hellions. But Hellions were also divided into different tribes, and there were many contradictions between the major tribes. This was the reason why Dark Elven clan was the most formidable force in the underworld. Within the city of Hellions, in an exquisite and luxurious palace that wasn't the slightest bit inferior to human imperial palaces. A godlike handsome young man with a tall stature, a head full of dazzling short golden hair, dressed in black, was quietly reading a book in his hands. Beside the young man, there were 7 beautiful young girls dressed in light muslin sitting on their knees. The 7 young girls were looking at the young man with coquettish eyes, their beautiful eyes brimming with adoration. An eagle-eyed, hook-nosed young man exuding a capable aura strode into the room. Without even giving the 7 charming young girls a glance, he said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, Steel City's expeditionary army has broken through the city of Dark Elves and is currently advancing towards our city of Hellions." The golden-haired young man was the king of Tyrannid subcontinent's Pantheon Hellion clan, the Pantheon Hellion monarch. Although he looked to be only 23 or 24 years old, but he had already lived for more than 3,000 years, he was an old freak in name only. Pantheon Hellion clan's inheritance came from the Pantheon Hellion ancestor. The Pantheon Hellion ancestor's body had gathered the blood and divinity of countless formidable gods from different planes, and was the most formidable among the 5 great Hellion ancestors. Pantheon Hellion clan was also the longest-lived among Hellion clans, and was the most formidable among those of the same rank. The only weakness of Pantheon Hellion clan was their very low fertility, and their numbers were the least among Hellion clans. Every adult descendant of Pantheon Hellion clan would possess a cultivation base comparable to that of a great warlock rank expert. Moreover, once they reached adulthood, then as long as time passed, even if they didn't practice cultivation, they would still slowly condense a trace of divinity and become a divine life form. The Pantheon Hellion monarch was the only expert of Pantheon Hellion clan in Tyrannid subcontinent. Together with the undead Hellion monarch and the myriad beasts Hellion monarch, They were known as Hellion Clan's three great tycoons. The eagle-eyed, hook-nosed young man exuding a capable aura was the Pantheon Hellion monarch's trusted aide Wormisley. The Pantheon Hellion monarch's eyes flashed with a touch of astonishment, and he exclaimed, "So fast! The city of Dark Elves has the divine power of that whore Lolth. How could it be breached so quickly? How could Steel City's mechanical legion be so powerful?" Wormisley said with a bitter smile, "I don't know either. I only know that they're heading this way. Not long ago, the warriors of the 8th Outpost were annihilated." The Pantheon Hellion monarch creased his eyebrows slightly, saying, "It seems that Steel City's mechanical legion will reach our city of Hellions in 30 minutes at most. Such a fast speed of advance. At this time, there's no news from the undead Hellion monarch, and the myriad beasts Hellion monarch is presiding over the surface world. Am I the only one left in the city of Hellions?" Wormisley said with an expectant look on his face, "That's right, Your Majesty, our city of Hellions now depends on you." The Pantheon Hellion monarch's eyebrows suddenly relaxed, and he said with a faint smile, "In that case, pass down my order. Everyone is to immediately leave the city of Hellions and give this city to Steel City." Wormisley stared blankly, and said with some disbelief, "Your Majesty, did I hear wrong? Give this city of Hellions to Steel City? This would be the greatest humiliation of our Hellion race for several millennia." The Pantheon Hellion monarch said indifferently, "Wormisley, which one has a stronger defense, our city of Hellions or the city of Dark Elves?" Wormisley said without hesitation, "The city of Dark Elves has the divine power of the goddess, it's full of incredible extraordinary power, and its defense is far stronger than our city of Hellions." The Pantheon Hellion monarch continued, "The main force of our Hellion race has already gone to the surface world. How is the strength of the city of Hellions compared to the city of Dark Elves?" Wormisley was silent for a moment, and then said with difficulty, "The remnant strength of our city of Hellions can't compare to that of the city of Dark Elves." The Pantheon Hellion monarch's eyes flashed with a radiance of wisdom, and he analyzed in a logical manner, "Since the other party can capture the city of Dark Elves in a short period of time, then our city of Hellions also can't withstand their offensive. Staying here would just be throwing away our lives in vain. We'll take the initiative to evacuate and leave this empty city to them. In the future, we'll think of a way to recapture this city. The underworld belongs to us. No matter how strong humans are, they still can't stay here for a long time." Wormisley sighed in admiration. "That's right, the underworld's environment isn't suitable for human survival. Even if they hide in the city of Hellions, it's still nothing to be proud of. We'll just take it back in the future. Your Majesty, you're really amazing. This subordinate is far inferior to you." Finished speaking, Wormisley saluted the Pantheon Hellion monarch, and then quickly left the palace. The Pantheon Hellion monarch suddenly sighed in disappointment and frustration. Steel City, interesting, to actually be able to capture the city of Dark Elves. It seems that the rumor of it annihilating 18 great warlocks in one fell swoop isn't false. Alchemy is really too powerful. Human warlocks alchemy, When humans contended against other formidable beings, all kinds of incomparably formidable alchemical secret treasures emerged one after another. Only then could they overwhelm those exceptionally talented formidable beings. In terms of cultivation aptitude, more than 99% of humans simply couldn't compare to fiends, ancient demons, demigods, and other formidable beings. The Pantheon Hellion monarch's strength was astonishing. If he didn't have secret treasures, then his battle prowess would be Tyrannid Subcontinent's #1, and even Starlight Aldrich might not be his match. But if he could use secret treasures, then Starlight Aldrich would be able to defeat him after paying a great price. When Yang Feng's huge mechanical legion arrived at the city of Hellions, he saw raging flames rising from inside the city of Hellions, and countless plumes of smoke rising from it. "Fortify the walls and clear the fields." When Yang Feng saw the city of Hellions gate open and the raging flames, his eyes flashed with a touch of graveness, and he felt that things had become thorny. If Hellions were willing to stay in the city of Hellions and engage in a face-to-face fight with Yang Feng, then that would be the scene that Yang Feng would like to see the most. No matter how many primary battle robots were destroyed by the Hellions, as long as the wreckage could be recovered, then the consumption would only be a little bit of energy. A little bit of energy in exchange for the lives of a large number of Hellions, that would definitely be very cost-effective. But those Hellions were very cunning. They burned the city of Hellions and all the supplies that couldn't be taken away, leaving an empty city for Yang Feng, which gave him a headache. Hellions were a formidable race in the underworld. Even without the city of Hellions, they could still disperse to various corners of the underworld, living by eating demonic insects, mushrooms, and moss. As for the problem of not being able to wake up without eating human flesh, Hellions also had a way to solve it. In addition to the city of Hellions, there were still more than 30 cities established by Hellions in the underworld. It wasn't that simple to capture the cities of Hellions one by one. What a cunning Hellion! If I had abandoned the city and fled at that time, would things have been different now? Joanna's thoughts revolved, and she immediately knew that she wouldn't have had a second choice at that time. The city of Dark Elves was an extraordinary city that Dark Elves had spent countless painstaking efforts to build. With the blessing of the goddess Loltha's divine power, its defensive strength was extremely formidable, and other cities simply couldn't compare to it. At that time, if Joanna had wanted to abandon the city of Dark Elves, then Dark Elves would have never agreed. Moreover, at that time, they had looked down on the small four-steel city. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.